What's good, family? Welcome to the Jaymie Jordan Podcast. If you know me, you know I love talking to you guys, so now we have an official platform to have these conversations. I want to give a special shout out to Ski Beats, legendary hip-hop producer, for providing the vibes that are flowing through your ears right now. Most of you know Ski from Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt album. He is the mastermind behind the sound. Thank you, Ski, for being a part of this podcast, and thank you for tuning in. Before we get into these conversations about health, healing, and prosperity, let's just let the beat breathe. All right, we are live. How are you, Sarah?
I am phenomenal, blessed, happy, grateful to be here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us. So welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to talk to you, and I know my audience is just super excited to hear from you as well. So I definitely want to extend my thanks, and I'm looking forward to this amazing conversation. So I have been following you, listening to you speak, and watching you for such a long time now. And it's like every time I hear you speak, I just sit there and I'm like, yep, yep. Like there's so many synergies. So you know, you're so powerful, the things that you do, the things that you say, the just the impact that you're having in this world. I want you to introduce yourself because I wouldn't do you the justice that you deserve. So can you please just introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you. First and foremost, I want to say I see you. I recognize what you do. I love what you're creating, the access you're giving, and the opportunity you're really allowing for people to tap into themselves. And so I love that you say, you know, we follow each other and you notice a lot of the things that we do, but it's truly because, you know, often what we see in others is what we know of ourselves. So truly, I'm just reflecting the greatness that you are already doing, sharing, giving out, spreading. I absolutely love that. But for me, hi guys, for those listening, my name is Sarah Brown Fontenot. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur now for 9 years. And it's crazy because I think back to before I started with my very first company. And well, even before then, I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was. I grew up in a world where I thought that success looked like doctor, lawyer, engineer, or entertainment. And so when I was young, I'm from Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Okay. And yes, I said it right. Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. And so I knew that I always wanted to do something bigger. I knew that I always wanted to have an influence and a platform, but I didn't understand how through those four things. And so, you know, doctor, I was like, oh no, blood makes me queasy. It's a wrap for me. Like, no, that's absolutely out. Engineer, my mom is an engineer and I didn't want to do what my mom did. So that was easily out. And lawyer, you know, honestly, I have some very strong debating skills. I'm grateful for those, but I wasn't interested in going to school for all of those years to learn laws and rules. And that wasn't interesting to me. And so the last thing, entertainment, I grew up singing, acting, dancing. I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be the thing. And so I picked up at 20 years old. I moved from Regina, Saskatchewan to Los Angeles, California to pursue acting. And, you know, when I think about, you know, who am I? A lot of the times when people will say, go ahead and introduce yourself, a lot of the times we resort to what we do. But what we do is not who we are. Who we are is who we are. And so I wish that I would have asked myself that question before I even got into acting, before I moved to Los Angeles, and everything worked so perfect. I know that God had a plan for me to be here, and I'm so grateful. But what I will say is, you know, a lot of the times we grow up hearing, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? And that's great. But the what is connected to achievement, whereas who is connected to fulfillment. And so who am I? I'm a light worker. I'm passionate. I'm in all of who I am. I am unapologetically me. I'm a woman that believes that we can be, do, and have anything that we want to be, do, and have if we're willing to do the work to get out of our own way. So that's who I am. Through that, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. You know, I started out with MLM. I built to the top 1.6% of the company. From there, I started high ticket one-on-one coaching, have a t-shirt, mindset, motivation, apparel line. I have an online course for newer entrepreneurs. I mean, there's so many things of what I do. I speak, but who I am is unapologetically female, strong, willing, resilient, going to make it happen, creating access for others, because I'm no more special than anyone else. I'm just a person that decided to believe that we truly get to have success. And success for me is when your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial aspects are all in a place where you want them.
Wow. So many synergies. Like when you speak, it's just like those are the things that I've come to learn and thus teach along the way. So a couple of things that you said stood out to me. When you said unapologetically me, doesn't isn't it a process though to get to that place, right? Because we have to work actively to get to that. I know for me, for example, it was for me. I had to work through so many things, and now I'm in this place of fearlessness. I'm like, I'm just gonna show up and be me and walk in that. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing. You said so many great things as well. One of the things that we talk about, people will ask me, what is Bricklayers about and who is it for? And it's really for purpose-driven people. Like we're people who are wanting to take our stories, our struggles, our pain, our talents, our gifts, the things that God have given us, and use that to create a life of prosperity, to where we're not only helping ourselves, we're helping others, right? So it's so much that you said, and one of my descriptors is, in a society that teaches us that you have to go to school to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, exactly what you said, we're taught that if we do these things, maybe we can clear 100K a year, right? Where we are that group of people who truly understand and believe that we can make 100 grand in a day with our gifts, and it's rare, but it's becoming more abundant. More and more people are really tapping into that. So we're just like kind of grouping together, like building that network, because society is just really overrun by people who don't believe in dreaming, right? And making your dreams come true. So we really try to tap into that. And I love what you said along the way. So many people are on that journey to starting their t-shirt line or creating their course. And so being that you've done these things and you're willing to pour back in such a transparent way, that's just truly, truly awesome to me. So I wanted to talk about, absolutely, I want to talk about, can you tell us about your group, about Disruptor Elite?
Yeah, so it's an online course for entrepreneurs who feel like there's not enough time in a day, there's not enough time, there's not enough money in the bank, and it really helps them to get unstuck. Because really and truly, a lot of entrepreneurs, if you're out there and you're listening and you think that what you need is more resources, more tools, more action steps, I would actually challenge you on that thought, because when you take it back to statistically, 2 out of 3 people have low self-esteem. 66% of people, Jaymie, 66% of people don't think anyone would care if they died, which means the battle is not is not like strategy and tools. The battle is worthiness. And so for me, what I'm really passionate about doing is helping people to emotionally and mentally get out of their own way. I always use the analogy of, it doesn't matter if you're going to battle and you're super excited about it and you're ready and you're like, yeah, I'm going to win this battle. So you want to pick up the biggest axe or the sharpest sword. But if you personally are not strong enough to lift them yet, there's no way that you can win. So my focus is getting people into the conditioning first. We focus a lot on a success mindset, and then we do get into the strategies and tools. Yes, how to grow your Instagram, how to do a Facebook ad, how to start, what's your purpose. There's a lot of different awesome tools in there. What to automate, systemizing, delegating, making time for your business. We all have 24 hours in a day, and one of the first things you hear is like, I just don't have the time. Right. I bet you could take 15 minutes from this, 25 minutes from that, 45 minutes from this, and then you have 2 hours in your day. And if you're focused and intentional in that 2 hours, soon that 2 hours could replace 6 hours on your job. The income coming from that. And then who knows, if it's a goal of yours, you could actually fire your boss, because now you're doubling or in a space where you don't have to ask anybody if you should quit. That's oftentimes, people will ask like, should I quit? Should I quit? Don't ask me if you should quit. You'll know. You'll just do it. You're going to come to me and be like, I quit my job, because it made sense. And I just want to say this too, for the newer entrepreneurs that may be listening, that, a lot of the times you see the glitz and the glam on social media, and it makes you think that that's all there is to entrepreneurship. And I'm here to tell you, it is a struggle. especially when you're first starting. You know, I was that girl calling my mom every month saying, will you please help me pay my rent? I was that girl debating between putting gas in my car or food in my fridge. Mm-hmm. And I had these different mindsets. And that's a lot of what I teach in my course. I had to decide that no matter what, I am not my circumstance or my situation, that my current circumstance is not my ending destination. And so there's these things that you have to do to reinforce your mind and your spirit, because rejection never feels good, no matter how successful you are, you know? So that's what my course is focused on. And I would just say for the newest entrepreneur, you know, it's a struggle. So you don't have to quit your job. I know it might look like it's a thing to do, but you do not have to quit your job in order to be successful in entrepreneurship. I did it the struggle way. You know, I slept on some couches. I moved in with my great aunt in Compton, California. I lived there for almost 3 years. I had a support system. You know, I knew that I wasn't going to fall into these streets. So that's not for everybody, you know?
Wow. You answered my first question. I was going to ask you to kind of take us back to those early days, because I love highlighting the real raw truth behind it, because of course people stop at the visual, right? So we do take care to make sure that our brands are clean, to make sure that we have visual representation of high quality and things like that. But oftentimes we think it stops there, and we forget that these are people, right? Just like us. And so I'm glad that you talked about that, because that's what I was going to ask you. What were some of the barriers? But you guys just heard, she was saying like sleeping on couches, right? Asking parents for money. So those are the early days. I'm going to shine some light on you right quick, because I know you're a humble pie. You're not going to want to talk about it. But I saw your post. Like, can you tell us what you just bought for mom and dad?
Oh, yes. So I just got my mom a brand new Cadillac Escalade. It was my mom's dream car. And, you know, she's been talking about it for so long. And I'm not going to lie, it was tough with COVID, because I'm here in Los Angeles and my parents are still back home in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to do, you know, I wanted to have the camera crew and the videography. I wanted it all, girl. So part of me was being selfish. And then I was like, okay, well, my mom actually needs a car at this point. So Sarah, it's not about you. So she went to test drive a car that I told her to go test drive, and she had no idea that I had bought it for her. So there's a lot of tears, there's a lot of excitement, but it was incredible.
That was so special to me. I was living vicariously through you, just looking at the story. And I know I reached out to you because I was literally like almost in tears, because I know how special it was. And that really, at that point, that's when I really started to realize kind of like even more of how much we had in common, because you shared that you manifested it. You wrote it out. And this is how my life is unfolding. Like, I write things out unapologetically. Again, I don't plan, I brainstorm. Like, there are no barriers or limits to what I write down. So seeing it on the paper and then seeing it actually happen, that was so special to me. Like, I was just really, really blown away by that. So I wanted to make sure that we shared that. There's so let me tell you a little bit more about Bricklayers, so you can understand like kind of where we're coming from with the questions. So Bricklayers is my coaching academy, and it's rooted in these pillars like mindset strategies and also physical, tangible ways to keep people on track and like locked in on that target when those battles and obstacles that are definitely scattered along that road to success, when they hit, because you know it's not a linear journey. You know, you're going to have some setbacks, you're going to have some fires, you're going to hit some pit holes. So we have these pillars, and one of them is called no distractions, because if you think about an actual bricklayer, they're the wisest use of their energy is to focus on the brick that's in their hands. Like, it pays no use to be distracted by what someone else is laying over there, the past or the future. So I want to ask you, what are some ways that you avoid or manage distractions in this journey?
That is such a great question. And I feel like the first thing that someone would really need to develop would be their level of belief. Because the only reason why we often look left and right for comparison instead of motivation is because we don't think what we have in front of us is good enough. We don't think what we have in front of us is the right brick or the fastest brick or the best brick, theoretically speaking, right? So oftentimes I would ask people, are you reinforced enough inside of your belief in order to believe that that brick in front of you is perfect? Everything that you have, like, do the best you can with what you have where you're at. And if all you have is the baby brick, you've got to lay that as perfectly as a brick can be laid. And soon you'll have whatever it is that you're looking to build. But are you okay with believing that this is what I need? And so for me, one of the things that I talk about all the time, you know, you hear these entrepreneurs and they shout from the rooftops, you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself. And I know from past experience, I'd be like, I believe in myself, but the money is not coming. The clients are not coming. And then I started to understand that belief is an action word. Belief for me is a series of 5 really simple steps. It comes down to what you think about. Your thinking creates your awareness creates your evaluation creates your action, and your action creates your progress. Progress creates a newer and higher level of belief. So what does that mean, right? It means when you are thinking about it, right? Let's say if you want to get that pair of shoes, you want to buy your mom a car, you want to, whatever it may be, I want to make $100,000 in my business, right? When you're thinking about it, I'm a 6-figure earner, I'm making $100,000, going. What that does is it creates a neurological pathway inside of your brain that says, okay, that's there. I'm aware of that now. It's like if you were to drive a truck through a cornfield, you may not really notice. If you drive it several times through a cornfield, okay, you'll start to see there's a little bit of a path. But if you consistently drive that car through the cornfield, not only will there be a path there, but corn will no longer grow there. And so you neurologically in your brain have to set out these pathways that create, okay, nothing else can distract from what it is that I'm doing right now. Nothing else is going to overgrow the thought process that I have, right? I'm Canadian. Yes, I say process. So no one else is going to overgrow that. So once you think about it enough, it creates that awareness. Okay, great. Let's say we're as old as we are, and I've only ever my entire life seen a map of the United States, right? I've only ever seen a map of the United States. The more that you start to think about things, which goes to your environment, the more of the people that you get around who are already doing it, it's going to expand your awareness, right? So now if I've only ever seen a map of the United States, but now all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a Japan over here?
Yes.
Do is now that I'm aware of it, I can reverse engineer it in order to create an evaluation. If Japan is over here and Los Angeles is over here, I don't know whether I'm going to walk, climb, fly, take a boat, pogo stick, hitchhike, ride a bike, you know, whatever it may come to. I don't know the plan that each individual person is going to have because everyone has a different level of resources, but everyone can make the journey if they're willing to stay focused on what it is that they want, right? So Los Angeles, when I know, okay, these are the ways that I can get there, these are the ways that work for me, now I can get into action. Now, what I want to let people know is in this step, usually your awareness and your evaluation. This is when your friends and your family members are going to tell you, you can't do that. That's too hard. That's not for us. That's for them over there. You know what? You're crazy for even trying this. And look, if you haven't had anybody tell you you're crazy for being an entrepreneur, I don't know how, right? Like literally how, right? And I just want to let the listeners know, and I know you know this because you speak the same thing, Jaymie, that sometimes the people that love you the most, they support you the least. And it is not because they don't think you're incredible. It's not because they don't think you're a phenomenal person. It's because all they've ever seen is a map of the United States. And now you're trying to tell them about Japan? They just don't believe it yet. So in your evaluation, getting into action is what is going to actually create your progress towards your goal. So if that goal is $100,000 and you've never made that in your business before, you've got to reverse engineer it. $100,000 is only $8,333 a month, which is $277 a day. How many people do you need to expose your product or service to in order to make $277 a day? Right? And then that will create progress. The more that you progress in anything, the better you feel. Like, oh, okay. I didn't make $277, but I made 103 and I feel real. I sold this $22 shirt, whatever it may be. Now you're starting to believe more and you're laying that brick a little bit more. And I would say, I say this all the time. I heard this incredible speaker and I literally incorporated into everything that I do now with belief is I would say, sometimes the big goals, they can feel so far away from where you are, like so far away, like 6 figures or $100,000 might seem like you saying I'm a 6-figure earner might feel like I'm a fraud, right? Because if you've only ever made $20,000 in your business, if that $12,000, $5,000 in your business, $100,000 may feel really far away. Yeah. So instead of saying I am a 6-figure earner, which will actually repel it, because the only way to attract anything is to feel good about it. So instead of saying that, you say the things that are in alignment with the end goal of what you're after. So instead of I am a 6-figure earner, ooh, I don't feel good, never gonna come. I am becoming the kind of person who can expose my product or service to blank amount of people per day. I am becoming the kind of person who can keep promises to herself. I am becoming the kind of person who will do what I say I was going to do. I am becoming the kind of person who has an incredible customer experience, even if it's only for 3 people. I am becoming the kind of person who, and what starts to happen is you become that person. And because that person is in alignment with what you're after and the end goal, you start to attract it to you because you feel good about who you're becoming. You're affirming something that you can actually do. You feel great about, and next thing you know, you look up and it's like, oh, damn. Yeah. I made 6 figures in my business. Right. So you've got to believe in yourself, affirm what it is that you're after, and decide that you are going to lay each brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. Only look left and right for motivation and inspiration. Comparison can be a superpower if you choose for it to be like, ooh, okay, I got it. Juice me up. But if you're looking at it for your lack, then it will rob you of your destiny. Only look left and right for motivation and inspiration. Other than that, focus on what is in front of you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing answer. And again, just so many synergies. That's why I feel like, you talk to people, and when there's such a level of alignment, you feel like I'm on the right track, right? Especially when you see people who are where you want to go, where you want to be. I talk about that. You're right. I encourage it. Look around, get motivated, get inspired by people, expose yourself. But when it turns into, you feel like you're not good enough to show up because you aren't where they are, it's like it needs to be a red flag. Like, okay, I need to stop. Maybe it's not time for me to look left or right yet until I get my mind right and have a good perspective on it. Excellent answer. You actually answered a few more of my questions in that. One of the things that we do is reverse engineering. Everyone wants to, like you said, we're looking at the dollar amount, but when you reverse engineer that, that's actually how we identify what we call bricks. Like you broke it down to the dollar amount per day. Well, how many books is that per day? How many courses do I have to sell today? How many hands do I have to shake, right? So that's how we actually identify bricks. So, bricks are decisions and actions that will contribute to your goal, get you to the next level, get you closer to your goal. So I wanted to ask you, let's take us back. Perhaps before you had the disruptor lead, before you were speaking, what were some fundamental bricks that you laid in your life that either helped you in a way that was direct or indirect? Like, I'll give you an example. For me, I used to model, and it wasn't for the career, that was for my confidence, right? I was a student. I just graduated in 2019. That was cool and everything, but I've never been the type of person who depended on a degree. I went to school for discipline. And while I was in school, I knew I wanted to be a speaker, so I would ask my teachers, can I present today? Can I lead the class today? And that was a brick for me, speaking to 200 people and not being afraid to do it. So like you have to identify these bricks and these moves, and I know just where you are, you've had to make moves where you're like, this is the right move for me. I'm going to make it regardless of who understands or who sees it. So what were maybe some early bricks that you laid to build yourself up to where you are today?
Yeah. So in the past, I love this question. in the past, and I didn't know at the time, but looking back, hindsight 2020, I realized that I had fully lived inside of and encompassed. I don't even want to just say I said, like I encompassed these life mantras. So for me, when things would go wrong in my life, I used to say these things like when I first started my very first business, I was living in Hollywood, California. My mentor was living in Torrance, or was working out of Torrance, California. So two things. Number one, I understood that success does not come to you. You have to go to it, right? And so every day, this is when I was struggling to put gas in my car, like putting $3 on pump 5, not because that was in a rush, but because that's literally all that I had. And I prayed that it would get me there, and maybe I could get $3 more to get me back, right? Mm-hmm. 3 gallons, that's like 60 miles. I'll be okay, So I at the time, all of these things used to happen to me. And one of my best girlfriends that introduced me to the opportunity of entrepreneurship, she was like, man, Sarah, it doesn't have to be this hard. Like my car crashed itself on the freeway. Don't ask me no questions. That's just how it happened with me in it, right? So my car crashed itself. And so I had a decision. That car that was squeaking on every block, like, I hated it. I used to park down the street, hide from it. I used to curse that car. Yeah. Watch what we speak about comes about, right? Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, I don't have a car. And then I was like, okay, my mentor is in Torrance, California, which is a 45-minute drive each way. Now my mentor is 2 buses and 2 trains, 2.5 hours one way, 3 hours back, in order for me to take the learning, in order for me to get the nuggets and get around the space and the environment. And sometimes what we do is we're looking for one reason why we should not be doing what we're doing. Well, I'll tell you right now, for those of you that are listening, there are a million reasons why you should not be doing what you want to be doing. But there is one very powerful reason why you can. And I was locked in to that thing. So I developed these sayings where I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop asking God, why me? I'm going to start telling life, try me. And my girlfriend, when she would say, oh, Sarah, it's not supposed to be this hard. Oh, Sarah, you can do anything else. Oh, Sarah, you've got to get around the people who pull the soldier out of you, and not the people who try to pacify you. And so I understood that, this is all a part of my story. And when she used to tell me, I was like, no, Jen, this is all a part of my story. My car broke down. This is all a part of my story. I got robbed at one of the bus stops. This is all a part of my story. I was struggling and crying myself to sleep every night. How am I going to pay my rent? Sarah, this is all a part of your story. And things go wrong so that life can go right. And I didn't know that I was encompassing these things. Nothing can stop me but death. I'll get obstacles. I'm just like any other human being, but I understood that if I funneled everything through, things go wrong so that life can go right. And a lot of things went wrong. I've been engaged twice, public humiliating failures on social media. I've failed so many times in businesses. I've struggled to get businesses off the ground. I've had people tell me that I'm crazy, but this is all a part of my story. Yes. And this is the thing. So many people will work their butts off for 40 years to retire and struggle, but won't give themselves 5 years, 10 years to even show themselves what they're made of. And it's because we live in this world of instant gratification, instant satisfaction, and that is not what success is made of. It's just like you're saying, Jaymie, you've got to lay each brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid, and soon you'll have whatever empire it is you're looking to build. But as long as you are focused on being a victim instead of a victor, there will always be some kind of problem for you. There will always be something stopping you up. So I funneled my everything through life mantras. One, this is all a part of my story. No one wants a predictable, easy, you understand where it's going. It's just this blunt. You walk straight out the movie theater watching a movie like that. Yeah. My story is like, whoa, make you cry, make you laugh. Whoa, plot twist. Hold up. What just happened? Whoa, flip it around. I have an incredible story. And whatever you may be going through, it's not there to stop you. It's there to make you stronger. But are you willing to harness it? Take the battles, look it dead in the face and actually go for it. Are you going to say, you know what, you're right? Because there's going to be people, places, things, circumstances, situations, and obstacles that tell you you can't, but you get to decide that you can. Because the only story that matters is the one that you believe is true for you.
Absolutely phenomenal and truthful answer. That is, as you were talking, I'm visualizing those phases in my journey when I was there. And that's absolutely true. And it's almost like I had a segment not too long ago talking about comparing ourselves to a magnet, like being magnetized towards our vision. And so when you're magnetized towards it and you're just drawn to it, that means whatever happens, you don't lose that connection to it, and you have that affirmation rather than like, maybe I shouldn't do this, or I'm a failure. Rather, it's kind of like I embrace the struggle. Now, sure, in the middle of it, it's difficult, it's hard, but at the end, you reach a point in your journey to where even next time something hits you, you're like, this is a part of my story, and I just love that so very much. There was a time where I did hit that point, and I'm like, oh, once you see, because coming out strong on the other side, you don't really realize that until you make it out and you look back and you're like, oh, wow, that's what that was about. So I just thank you for your transparency. Thank you for sharing, because it's so helpful. Like, we're visual creatures. When a person sees someone and they're like, if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. So I love that you're sharing, and that's exactly right. And then you spoke on, just laying the brick as perfectly as you can. That's another thing. I feel if we do what we can with what we have at our current highest level of understanding, you're on the right track, right? How many times do we come across people and they have a vision, but since they can't actually depict the vision exactly how it is in their minds, it's hard to take that first step. But you just have to lay that brick with your highest level of knowledge and it'll be fine. So you touched on so much. I want to bring it back to another pillar is called dirty work, because bricklaying is dirty work, right? It's not a clean job by far. So relating it to us and our journeys, I make the analogy of everything that you have to do to get to that level of prosperity. It's not going to be fun. There are going to be some things that are not your gift, not your talent, not your expertise. So I love to speak and coach. That's easy for me. It's joyful, but I also have to do back-end work, clerical work, admin work, web stuff. And so that was my dirty work. And the first thing we do is identify it. And then once we identify it, now it's right in front of us, and it's not just like haunting us. We have it on paper, like, this is what you need help with. And so the first question I want you to answer is like, what is your dirty work for you, or what was your dirty work, and how did you go about managing it? Did you delegate? Did you hire out? Did you just learn how to do it until you could get to the next level? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. I don't have as much dirty work anymore because I have outsourced it. And that is definitely, I think that's a luxury, because time is a commodity, not a luxury, right? So it's like, oh, okay, now I got more time. And I think back to, if you're just beginning and you're doing everything for yourself, look at that as though it's a superpower, because what you get to do with that is you get to create the playbook. Right? If you know that this is how to make an email list, and this is how to create an opt-in, and this is how, all of those steps each have steps. And so what happens is now you have a breakdown exactly how you personally do things. And it takes a while at first, but if you do it at first, now when you do start hiring people, you can hand them the playbook. This is how you do it. This is how you do this, to outsource it. But I feel like so many people in entrepreneurship, they're lazy in their learning. They come into whatever product, service, or being that they are, and it's like, I just want to be great right away. But the reality of it is that's not the reality. Yeah. There's time, there's energy, there's focus, and there's learning and a development of skills. When we come into kindergarten, we're not learning calculus, because there's levels that you have to do things in, there's steps, and anything before it's time isn't a blessing, it's a burden. Like anything before it's time. So you want to make sure that you're taking the necessary steps. So for me, what those things were, back It was doing the email list stuff. I don't know. It was trying to learn how to do Facebook ads. It was trying to learn, cold calling. It was trying to create scripts for when I was meeting new people on Instagram. It was how do I grow my social media page? It was all of the mundane things that I'm not excited about. I'm not excited about them, but now because me and my team are crystal clear on how things happen, they're doing it. It's like little me's, right? And oftentimes it's because people are perfectionists and they don't want to delegate any work because it's like, well, F it, I'll do it myself. Like, oh, I'll get it done better than, okay. And that's great. You probably can, but is that really serving you?
Right.
And so any of the $10 per hour work, outsource it. And then if it takes 2-3 hours, make sure you get a new client or sell a product so that it makes sense that it's covering that thing and you can spend the time being in your zone of genius. So there are so many things in the beginning that are definitely like you don't want to do it. I promise you don't want to do it. And if you were to get around any successful person, you may think that they have this super glamorous life because of the gram, but the reality of it is they're probably doing the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
And it's not glamorous. It's not fun. It's not attractive. Like there's a reason why, unless you're going and speaking everywhere, there's a reason why people aren't posting their everything that they're doing in a day because it looks the same and that's not attractive. But they'll post the highlights, right? To keep people coming back. That is attractive. So, it's being okay with doing the mundane, boring, tedious. I hate tedious work. I cannot stand tedious work, but it's necessary at first.
And that's why I call it dirty work, because that's where like you really have to get your hands dirty and do those things that you don't want to do. And I love that you spoke to the journey. Like it's a process and it has to mature over time, and you will get a team and your team will become, like you said, it's like mini yous. I'm super, super blessed right now. Just at this point, I've been on my journey since January 1st, 2017. That's when I put my foot down. I'm like, I'm changing my life, never looking back. Bricklayers was born in March of 2020, and I'm just now getting that team around me to where it's like, it's a relief. But I had to do so much along the way, and I'm still in it. I'm still learning the back end of things. So I like how you broke it down. It's like empowering. You're learning these things, and you can now just, here you go. This is how I like to get things. This is in alignment with my vision. This is in alignment with my mission. So I wanted to talk about that because oftentimes it's discouraging when people don't have a team and they forget that, you're going to start this journey alone. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be by yourself. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we have the same, like the email list and those things. I'm like, okay, I'm learning it, and it's definitely a joy. It's a joy because I know, again, like you said, it's a part of the story. All right, next pillar is called heavy lifting, right? So bricklaying is not an easy job, right? There's going to be some heavy lifting involved, and I looked at the stats, and a bricklayer, like a brick weighs about 5 pounds. So one brick is not strenuous to pick up. It's not very heavy. But do you know, over the course of a year, the bricklayer can lift up to 2 Boeing jets in weight? That is some heavy lifting, right? And being an entrepreneur, walking in your gift, walking in your purpose, following your calling, that's the hardest thing you can do. There's no application process where you just apply and get the job. That is one of the most difficult things you can do. And speaking to successful, millionaires, self-made millionaires, they always say the same thing. This is the hardest thing you can do with your life. So make sure you're ready for that ride. So heavy lifting, and the way I use it to teach is, with that amount of heavy lifting, we have to balance it out. You have to make sure that you're not breaking your back, you're not overworking yourself. So 2 points. There are going to be some points in the journey where, yes, you're involved in the heavy lifting. Sometimes you're going to be working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, long nights, sacrificing. But then on the other end of that, we have to make sure we are balancing it out. So can you talk about that? What were some times when you were really, really involved in the heavy lifting, and how did you balance it? How do you maintain that that work self-care balance? Because I see that you're great at that.
Thank you. Yes, I believe self-care is so important. I think self-love is like a huge part of confidence. It's like, I feel like confidence breaks down into self-love, and that has a whole list of things, and then belief, and that has a whole list of things, right? So when I think about heavy lifting as an entrepreneur, I started off the wrong way because I was heavy lifting the 2-pound things instead of heavy lifting the 5-pound things that made the biggest difference. So as an example, you know, when you think about the 80-20 rule, I could bet almost anyone, and I'm sure that you could relate, that 80% of the results of your sales, of your clients, come from 20% of the people. Right? Like literally. And so, yeah. And sometimes we focus on the 80% that don't give us a result. And so a lot of the times the heavy lifting are the income producing activities in alignment with whatever goal you're setting for yourself. I say, set the big goal, reverse engineer it daily. You know exactly what you need to do. And some days knowing that you're not going to have a result, that's heavy lifting. Entrepreneurship is not waking up early, listening to personal development, listening to, you know, your gospel music, getting dressed, however that may be. And then, you know, going on here and just learning. If you never apply what it is that you're learning, if you never get in action with the necessary steps that need to happen in order to build anything, you're not doing the heavy lifting. You're being busy instead of being productive. So the heavy lifting for me is the 20%, which is usually where you start procrastinating, where you usually get on social media and you start scrolling. It's the things that send you to start sweeping the floor, doing the laundry, because we would rather do anything but those tasks. Those are the parts of your business that make the biggest difference. And if you focus on the income producing activities, not the busy work, it is only a matter of time until that heavy lifting turns into, wow, look at the empire I just built, because I focused on what mattered.
Yes. I love that. How do you balance that heavy lifting with, you know, just take us on maybe like on a micro scale. What does a day or a week look like for you? How often do you implement that self-care intentionally?
Every day I implement self-care. I have a morning regiment. I used to not. And it's funny because my guy is like, yo, we got a house phone. Like he has a house, I have a house, but like we got like, there's house phones, no cell phones in the bedroom. Like they can't happen. And at first I was like, what? Like it was so foreign to me. Like, what are you even saying? No, don't you know when I roll over, first thing I do is I grab my phone and I start doing whatever I, you know, like, wow, hold up. And, yeah, it was crazy.
Of like,
it was literally like, but what would I do without my phone? And then I realized again, yes, responding to people on Instagram that comment on your stuff or on Facebook or Pinterest or whatever it is, that stuff is important, but it's not the most important, right? And so I had to get really clear. Even now, sometimes it's so easy to give access to anybody. You've got to have business hours. Right? If you know, if you need to make it to the bank and it's a Sunday, you're going to get there before they close at 2 or 4, right? You schedule your day in order to get there in the times that they're open. And what we as entrepreneurs do is we'll be like 24/7, I'm available. You can talk to me, which is, you know, you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend that because it throws off your schedule. It's like if you're working on something on your computer, people think that you can multitask. I don't remember the statistic, but you actually wreck your whole level of focus by doing more than one thing at once, right? So when it comes to self-care for me, I have a morning regiment. Folks don't even hear from me until like 9 or 10 in the morning. And that's not because that's when I wake up, but it's because I literally have a regiment where anything that happens, it's like, oh, okay, I can handle this. I can handle this. It might suck. It might be horrible. Yesterday, my freaking Instagram was deleted out of nowhere. I had 55,000 and some followers, and I'm not tripping. Like old me would have been like, what on God's earth? My whole life is over. But it just is what it is. So you've got to know and have a level of balance, because you cannot serve others pouring from empty. That's why they say, like, you've got to get full so you can overflow into others, because the poor can't help the poor. You know, the struggling people can't help other people out of the struggle, right? With resources, right? So you've got to get full. And I'm very focused on that. I've created a very clear time where I'm reachable and when I'm not. I have two phones. I have a personal phone. And if you need me, okay, I'll be on that cell phone. Or I have my everybody has this phone number phone, right? So it's really getting crystal clear on the boundaries that you have inside of your business, and don't betray them. Oftentimes we betray ourselves trying to make other people happy.
Yes.
And that's not fair. And you can be a professional, you can get clients, you can make income by honoring yourself, your hours, your business, your service, your product, within a boundaried time.
Wow. I love that. I love that so much. It's just everything you said, it resonates. And even when you, last night, and you said, I'm putting my phone down for the night, it triggered something in me. And I'm like, I remember when I used to do that. You know what? I'm going to put my phone down too. Like, I'm going to turn this off. Reach me in the morning. It's different because we feel so connected to our purpose and our journey, especially at the beginning. It's almost like a scarcity mindset. Like, I have to do this right now. And one of the things, I think I read this in the Prosperity Bible, was once we understand that wealth is abundant, wealth is not rare, wealth is abundant. You approach everything from a different perspective, and I just hear that pouring out of you. So I love how you infuse that self-care, the boundaries, equaling self-care, and all that wrapped up into business. And you as an entrepreneur, like it's just such a fine balance that you speak of, that I can just imagine the journey that you have been on to get to this point, right? That is so great. Last one, we have a few minutes left. So the last pillar I want to talk to you about is called behind the scenes, because most of the work is done behind the scenes. You touched on it earlier. You see the finished product, right? You see the here you go, this is the book that I've written, or this is the light at the end of the tunnel. We don't really see the behind the scenes work, but as you know, most of the work is done where no one can see. That's where the things that really matter have to happen. So two parts of behind the scenes I want to talk to you about. One of them is called environment alignment. That's where you spend your time aligning your environment with what it is that you're going after. So this means removing things, people, access, music, shows, energy, places, and adding things that you need, bringing in that motivation, bring in that positive voice. Expose yourself to something new, travel to that place so you can get that experience. So can you tell us what were some of the things that you had to eliminate or that you lost along the way?
I definitely lost relationships along the way, platonic and romantic. Actually, even let's just rewind to 4.5 years ago, I called off my engagement. And, on social media, we were every hashtag. We were Black love, we were power couple, we were relationship goals, we were all of the hashtags, but in reality, we were very toxic. And I'll never forget, it wasn't the distrust that made me run away. It wasn't the betrayal. It was literally my ex looked me dead in my face and said, Sarah, you'll never be successful. The only way you'd be successful is if you married someone successful.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of the times we as people allow our closest loved ones to talk us out of what we know we deserve. And so I'd say to those people, don't surrender your destiny loving and listening to the wrong people. And I will say even more so, this is back when keeping up with the Joneses was so important. So even though I was making a good amount of money, I was spending way more than I was making. I was overextending myself because perception was more important than reality. And that got me into a very toxic, horrible situation, because even after I called it off, I went back to that girl that was in debt like no other. And I was calling my mom all over again saying, Mom, can you help me pay my rent? Except now my rent wasn't $787. My rent was thousands of dollars. And so now my mom, who's a six-figure earner, can't help me the same way. Right. And so one of the things that I realize is in that moment or in those times, and you guys are going to know what I'm talking about when it happens to you. I went to my ex-fiance because he was making more than I was. And I said, hey, I'm really struggling. I can't pay my rent. Can you help me? And he said, no, I can't. I said, I know that you can. Are you telling me that you won't? And he said, no, I won't. And I said, okay. And in that moment, he did me the biggest favor that anyone ever could have done for me. Because instead of being out here looking for a hero, I decided to become my own. And in that moment, it was another part of, ooh, this is all a part of my story. And so you've got to get around the people and be the person that believes enough in you. This goes back to laying each brick, only looking left and right for motivation and inspiration, understanding that this is all a part of your story, knowing that things go wrong so that life can go right. And when I got into that, our vibe attracts our tribe. And I more and more and more started to get around people who have been through some things. You know, like my life story is crazy, you know, but I've attracted other people who say, you know what, Sarah, I know this is hard. Because for those of you listening, yes, this is hard. What are you going to do about it? At the end of the day, are you in the environment of people, of places, of things, of circumstances and situations that say, I know this is hard, but what's the exit strategy? I know you're struggling, but what are we going to do about it? I know you haven't paid your rent yet, but crying about it isn't going to help you. What are we doing? And understanding that at the end of the day, if you have no one, if your environment is super toxic, if it's super dark, if it's super unsupportive, look yourself in the mirror, because at the end of the day, the only person that can make things change is you. You get to choose whether you are your circumstance or your situation or whether you're not. You get to choose whether you're going to go out and make new clients happen or you're not. You get to choose on if you're going to reverse engineer your day or spend it scrolling on social media or doing the income producing activities. You get to choose. And because you get to choose, you have the power. When you choose to take 100% responsibility for the people in your life and those that pull the champion out of you, not those who pacify you, everything can change for you. But I would ask for those listening, are you the person that pulls the champion out of you? Are you your own good, healthy, happy environment? Because sometimes it's us that is most of the time where 2 out of 3 people struggle with low self-esteem, where 2 out of 3 people don't think that anyone would mind if they died. You've got to understand that you're worthy, and that worthiness is a birthright. It's not something that you earn along the way. So are you putting yourself and believing enough in yourself that honestly, environment is important? Yes, it will create more avenues and resources and relationships. Those things are so important. But the most important environment is the one between your ears. Yes. The most important environment is the life that you speak to yourself, because life and death lies in the power of the tongue. And if you don't believe in what you're doing, nobody else will.
Wow. So many, just so many life lessons in that. I thank you so much for speaking that life over the listeners and the bricklayers and everybody who's going to hear that, because it's so important. And so many people are looking up to you. So many people are inspired by you. So many people learn from you. I remember I posted one of your posts to my story one day, and I didn't announce that we were doing this at all. It's going to be a surprise for the community. And so many people were like, I love her so much. And I know that them hearing from you on this level, on a personal level, is just going to uplift them, because you know how something like this happens to you. My journey, like my story is just so tumultuous. It was just so much turbulence. It was so many turns and twists and turns. And, people see, the videos and they see, the modeling stuff. And I'm like, you have no idea like how broken I was, how like shambles, right? But there was that thing inside of me. Once it was awoken, like I related to the sun, like a star, like this just burning nebula inside of you, to where like even when it's dark outside, it's still burning. You can't see the sun at night, but it's still there. And so once you get to that level where that thing is just inside of you, no matter what happens, you just like you said, you accept it. This is a part of my story. And I remember when I first had this realization of you just doing it, just getting it done. And then every once in a while you look back and you're like, wow, this happened. I made this happen. Do you have those moments where you're like, I actually leveled up to what I wrote down? Yes. It was like So I have these domains: mental, spiritual, physical, financial, emotional, social wealth. Like whenever we look at that vision, it's not just one type of wealth. As you know, sometimes people just look at being wealthy financially, but that is really a combination of physical wealth. I'm pretty sure in your vision, in your dream, you look and feel amazing. Social wealth, your circle is healthy and influential and powerful. Mental wealth, you have to be healthy in your mind. So, um, in the financial domain, I remember one day I was like, new entrepreneur, and I hit a milestone. I'm like, I have never made this much money per hour. And I looked back and it felt like yesterday when I was like scraping nickels and pennies to buy my daughter diapers from the store. And these little moments, like I have a network of people like you now who we're just having this conversation on a podcast. And I remember when I was so isolated, like socially isolated, there was no positive influence. I was completely surrounded by toxicity and negativity. And so I want to really just speak out to any of you guys who are still in these low places that Sarah just spoke about, that I'm speaking about. Like, there is light right ahead. You just have to continue one foot in front of the other. And even further, if you change what you're receptive to, there is light in your situation right now. Like, if you can take joy in the fact that you woke up this morning, if you can take joy in the fact that you have all of your senses, that you're cognitively intact, that you can think of an idea and then create a plan and then physically move to make it happen. These are the things that I want you guys to really focus on as you're going through your journey. So, Sarah, you have done us such a tremendous blessing by being here with us. Can you just tell us even further how to find you, how to link up with you, for anyone interested in following up with you?
Yes. So if I get my Instagram back, we don't know. It was literally deleted yesterday. But if I do, my Instagram handle is Ms. Sarah Fontenot. So it's MSSarahFontenot. So it looks like Ms. Sarah Fontenot, but that's not how you say it. And then my course is at disruptoreliteGroup.com. No www, just disruptoreliteGroup.com. If you're excited about a t-shirt, disruptedperspective.com. That's t-shirts. That's all about mindset, purpose over pain. You got to have vision over sight. Stop saying why me, start saying try me, grow through it. Just fun little things. Being a disruptor, disrupting the status quo and what people possible for themselves, and understanding that it's you, it's always up to you. And one thing that I will say, just a last final note, is for those of you, if you are in a dark place, and you do feel like you're just at rock bottom, and sometimes we forget that it's not always about moving forward. Sometimes it's just about surviving today, because even in the darkest places, even your shadow leads you, and you feel like you're all by yourself. You've got to remember, like TD Jakes says, just because they tried, or it tried, the world tried to put you in the ground, or bury you in the ground, or whatever, like it's dark around you, you're a seed. And anything and all things can grow if you decide. So I know that for those of you, if this even relates to you, if you feel like you're going through something, just know that all things are happening for you and not to you. And if you're going through something where you feel like I've been through it. I had the nights where I cried myself to sleep. I had the nights where I was like, I don't know how, God, like you say you give your hardest battles to your toughest soldiers. And I'm like, surely this is for the person down the street, because you are in the wrong house. I am not this strong. But it is always a level of conditioning if you're willing to learn the lesson, if you're willing to face it head on and know that you're worthy of any and all things. And your current circumstance and situation is not your ending decision unless you decide to make it.